Welcome back to Sikistan and welcome back to the best part of someone's week. It's the Monday News Sikistan at 6 News, national news broadcasting. And previously, just this weekend gone, we've had probably one of the strongest weekends of history where people were just doing lots of ridiculous things. So without further
ado,
let's get into it. Do you something like that? Sorry?
What?
Co-host, Dara, do you have something?
I'm all good. I'm excited.
Right. David Fisheroff, you may know as the Austrian Bulgarian weightlifter. You know, if you go to Austria, they have loads of kangaroos on the place because so often it's mixed up with Austria.
No way.
Yeah, it's like a thing. Anyway, the Austrian Bulgarian weightlifter, who's probably 109, previously kind of around the 180, 220-ish, 215 mark, has now become a 200, 230 plus lifter. So hook grip, nat arm, any story. Had him snatching 200 kilos at 110 kilo body weight. So let's look at that first. So fast. How easy did that look?
Yeah, it's insanely good. If this was most other weeks of the new show, he'd already be crowned Horse of the Week.
Yeah, but it's
not any other week.
It's not any other week.
Aggressive hip contact.
Wait till you see it clean in a second. So I just want to watch this. I just want to watch this one more time. Such a weird start position.
Yeah.
Weird extension. But 200 kilos is 200 kilos. Now, watch these extension on the clean.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's extending on his toes super early.
Yeah.
But clean front squat jerk.
230. What do you say? You reckon he's around 109?
No, he said 110 on the story there.
Okay.
It said 110 kilo body weight, so 109.
Oh my God. I like his jerk tip.
He was not this good a lifter before. He was not a 200, 230 lifter. So the clean extension is so strange. But at the end of the day, once you start getting into 220s, 230s, there's nothing you can it's too late to change anything. And it's obviously working reasonably well. Now, will we see David actually hit something like this competition? Is this the same old thing we always kind of know from weightlifting? So it'll be interesting to see, but still incredible lifting.
I will be watching on with excitement for the next few months. I can't wait to see what he does.
Next, we've got Izzy Lorenzo or Isabel, so the Australian weightlifter. She's clean and jerking 125. I'm not sure if this is quite a PB, but it must be up there around it with her lifts. So
it's insanely good.
Very good lift, very clean.
I actually just bought a pair of shoes off Izzy or the Uplift weightlifting store last week.
Mm-hmm.
They arrived after a few days. So very, very good service. You'll be seeing those at Easter 2008 on the channel very soon. But yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. Very nice 125 as well.
What I really like is the catch in the clean, the hook grip, holding that position. When you can make it works really well for the bottom of the clean. It makes the turnover much more connected when you're turning the barbell over, and it makes that bottom position a lot better if you can keep those elbows up.
Another thing I really like is in Izzy's jerk, she keeps the bar very neutral over her head.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people kind of drive the bar back really far behind them. That bar is sitting right over like the crown of her head. It's very, very nice.
She does do something that I really like in lifting, is that a lot of times you'll see female lifters will tend to push towards an over pulling of the barbell, where she's much more aggressive in the pull under. Now, we'll have to say the loading of the barbell is absolutely diabolical, criminal.
I can only hope.
A war crime?
I can only hope. So they're obviously gym owners, her and Kyle at the moment. My only hope is that there is a load of clients in the gym. They were using all the plates that it would take for appropriate loading of the barbell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the bar is loaded like that.
It's a war crime against sport. Next up, we've got one of my one-to-ones, one of my lifters, Travor. So Travor is I think he's the American national champion last year for 96s. So he had a PB double at 151. And he also hit 140 kilos for 3 recently. So his best snatch is 155 or 156. So I think we all know where this is going. And hopefully Trevor knows where this is going as well. So with a lot of work in his technique, a lot of the change in knee position, he had what we would call classic American technique, which I'm trying to just change a little bit and make it a little bit more smoother and a little bit more classical. And it's definitely paying off. And Trevor is putting in a lot of great work with that. And he's doing the bits. Great athlete, very talented, very motivated, very dedicated, very good to coach, really wants to know what's going on. And so very happy this 151. This kind of an interesting case where he actually just had lots of doubles to do, but he knows where we're going with the program. He knows we want to hit a certain number, not at any point, just hit it and get it off the books, or get it marked off the books. And so he was doing his doubles at 140, and then he just felt very good, and he's experienced enough to know just when it.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Ireland, when there's when the sun shines, make hay, or the equivalent, whatever the American equivalent would that be.
This
when the sun shines, shoot your guns.
So one thing with when the sun shines, be free. One thing with the 1-to-1s is we kind of, myself and Owen, inadvertently end up seeing a lot of our each other's 1-to-1s. You kind of see them making progress, and Trevor has definitely made massive progress over the last few months. The first rep of this 151 is chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Great bar speed across both lifts.
Yeah, really, really nice. Technically very nice as well. Well done.
Now, speaking of a lifter who's somewhat technically proficient, a new and up and coming lifter called Lasha is doing his classic kind of complex, one of the complexes we see him do quite frequently. We actually see him do quite a bit of variation for such an advanced lifter compared to typical lifters, but this is his snatch pull or snatch deadlift, where he really focuses on keeping his shoulders over into a full snatch.
Yeah, and the full snatch is bloody gorgeous. So what is that first? So 180, 195, 200. This is just a lovely snatch. That 180 is so nice.
So I was asking Anton about this because there's always kind of a volume in training, and there's always volume in sessions. Even when they go heavy, there still seems to be a lot of volume initially. And it seems to be a kind of auto-regulation sort of caveat thing. So, at those weights, there's obviously still very distinct periods of training when they're going heavy, and obviously every week is building on the previous weeks. And in weightlifting, because it's not a pure strength sport, and obviously sometimes things are regulated by speed, and obviously when we're doing speed training, we do a lot of auto-regulation based on the speed. So weightlifting is kind of that funny mix where a little bit of auto-regulation is necessary, especially at that level, because the difference between feeling slightly off and feeling really good could be a world record.
Yeah.
So they do that volume. They obviously have numbers and destinations and a very distinct process, as we're seeing from Lash's build up again. But when you feel good, they seem to kind of recommend it, but you're always doing volume because you're always training, essentially.
So basically they're prioritizing volume over the course of the entire block.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then when that gap in the clouds comes, they shoot for it.
But see, it kind of depends on the lifter too, because Lasha, for example, goes heavy every single week and does better every week. He said, Anton was saying that every week you see Lasha, the first week, maybe back he'd do 190, next week he'd do 200 and 220 or 230 or whatever, whereas Anton was saying he could only go really heavy like twice a month, but not for Lasha.
I suppose there's a reason he's referred to as the GOAT.
Then we have him doing these no-foot snatch balance at 180 up until 200 kilos. So I reckon they do the no-foot snatch balance because it's a bit safer than really aggressively moving your feet.
Yeah, I was about to say it's definitely a safer option. When it's 200 kilos overhead and you're the current world champ, you don't want to mess anything up.
It's interesting that they even kind of do snatch balances, because generally when you get to this level, you're not going to get a whole lot of extra stability by the nature of being able to do that. So a lot of times the stability for newer lifters, they gain a lot from this. But more advanced lifters, it's a risk-reward kind of thing.
One thing I will say with these is he's pushing that barbell a lot.
Yeah.
Like he's staying high for a very long time, which I like lifters to do, but it's notable on these how tall he stays and how much he's pushing. He's definitely not chasing under the barbell,
Yeah.
They're very, very nice. Very high quad wrap. Wonder if that's a little bit of injury prevention stuff maybe.
Now, speaking on the snatch balances, we have Jan Hak, or Korean John Hak, doing a 220 kilo snatch balance. Again, very similar, like Fitz was talking, keeps it very, very high. Incredible 220 as a 96.
Incredible, yeah. I don't even know what to say about it. Every single time I watch him lift, he's just like the shadow sitting in the corner, just slowly getting incrementally closer. Do you know what his best lifts in competition are there?
We've seen him do like 180 something in a Korean Nationals, I think last year, maybe 220, but not. We haven't seen him on the international stage in a while, I think. So I assume we'll be seeing him this year, and they'll run up until Paris. So 220 kilos. I think it's safe to say he just doesn't need any more than 220.
No, I think he's pretty set there. We're obviously going to Korea soon. I'd love to watch him training.
Yeah.
I feel like everything is so well planned out, so exacting with all of their work, all of their tuition. He just looks very, very dialed in all the time. Some lifters, you're like, oh, you definitely train like a tornado. I feel like this is so dialed in.
I don't know. I get the opposite. I get the fact he just seems to do mental stuff. He's doing like fives from blocks, going really aggressive, maxing out his snatch balance. Mostly what I want to do in Korea is just touch Lee Sang, just kind of like to see how dense he is.
I'd say if you put your hand near him, you'd feel like warmth.
Yeah, it'd be vibrating.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to some of the biggest sections this week. One of the very, very, very strong things that happened the previous weekend, we had Dan Griggs doing a 465 kilo sumo deadlifting competition. So this is one of the first in our tornado, our hurricane of stupidly strong people doing powerlifting stuff.
Our steam train of strength. Dan is we've obviously talked about Dan before on the channel. This is insanely strong. Now, there is something to be noted here with that bar is probably bending more than the displacement of bar bend is probably more than the displacement of the actual weights, but it's insanely impressive.
So he is a 110 kilo lifter. Now we obviously know Dan is very well rounded, but his deadlift is obviously quite a talent of his.
Something to behold.
What's like his main shtick? Like what's the word I'm thinking of? It's on the tip of my tongue. His main thing. He's like, there's a word out there and it's on the tip of my tongue. It's his like centerpiece. No, that's not it. What's the word?
Speciality.
Yeah, that's not it. Anyway, he's class at deadlifting. Next up, we've got the Sheffield Open thing. And if you're like, why the fuck is this massive powerlifting competition on in Sheffield? It's because it's the home of SBD. It's actually Sheffield bench deadlift, not squat bench deadlift.
This was popped up everywhere over the weekend.
Everywhere.
On Instagram. Every single story. Even people who are in like BWL, beginner weightlifters who I'd know were at this watching this competition. It would seem to be massive.
Now, as a resident, fluent French speaker, how do you say? Is that just Naomi or Naomi? How is that? Come on, don't let us down.
Naomi.
Alabert squat is 171.5, which is such a strange thing to squat. The exact number at 52 kilos, so it's obviously a world record, and that's why it's strange. So that's 3.2 times body weight in the competition. She absolutely buried it, and she's continued the run of really strong French powerlifters. And just, I'll be honest with you, no one really understands why France is doing this.
They have some insanely strong, particularly female powerlifters. They do tend to favour that narrower stance, knee straight ahead squat. Very
low bar.
Very low bar, but very specific. It tends to work very well for certain females.
I wonder why she got one red light for that, because as far as I'm concerned, she buried it.
I have no idea. There are single red lights pop up in powerlifting competitions, and I'm convinced it's just people pressing the wrong button.
Do you think the lights distract you as well, though? Like the incredible aggressive flashing lights?
This looked like Joe at the Olympia contest where they have like strobe lights when they're out on stage posing and stuff.
Yeah.
This looked like there was more smoke machines and more strobe lights than that.
I wonder, were you allowed to wear anything but SBD knee sleeves and SBD belt?
I assume SBD had heavy influence on the gear.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, she buried that for especially for powerlifting competition.
Insanely strong. 3.2 times body weight. Well, that would be like 500 kilos for you.
Moving on, we've got Joe O'Sullivan, always wearing the shades. They must be his prescription, so I actually don't want to rag on him. I wanted to make a joke, but maybe they must be some kind of prescription shades.
Why?
Because he's always wearing them.
Yeah.
If anyone knows why. But I don't know Joe, so I don't be ragging on him about something.
Maybe Joe's just staying in the zone.
Maybe, but he could be sensitive about it sometimes.
Yeah.
So Joe squatted on the weekend as well, 386 kilos.
What's going on?
In the 100 kilo class. So a lot of you asked, actually, could I do on the video with Nino, could I do a dissection, or could we do a dissection on Joe's squat? And yes, we will.
Yeah, definitely. I love Joe's squat. I think if you're a powerlifter and you want a very nice and very effective squat at incredibly heavy weights, that's a model you can follow. And you don't have to be any sort of freak to follow it.
He once again buried it as well.
Yeah.
You know, we love when people do powerlifting records and stuff that they're very clearly deep enough, that they're very clearly just demolished.
The last time we talked about Joe's squat on the channel, he was obviously going for that old record at 500 pounds. What was it, 23 reps or something?
Tom Platz, yeah.
At 500 pounds. And he kind of had to be helped walk away from the squat rack, and he had to be helped walk away from it here too. And I love to see that.
Well,
I love to see near death attempts.
Wait, I think I know why he's wearing glasses, because it's outside.
It is, and it looks very sunny.
I don't know should you be running comps outside. But what I do know is Joe is a freak, and this 386 is... So we saw a lot of his training leading up to this, and it was looking good. So I wonder how much more, like, what's next for him. I know he's done a kind of big water cuts for this before, and I just... Like, that's a limit lift for the day. So incredible. Like, will he... Surely that 400 kilos has got to be on his mind. That quadruple bodyweight squat.
You can only assume that that's sitting in the back of his brain.
And if he buries that as well, I'd be so impressed.
Just the amount of help he has walking away here. That's an insanely strong squat. Also, the HRT clinic he's sponsored by is called Magnus Medical. That
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is effective branding.
Now, we've got possibly the strongest man of all time in terms of like brute strength, or just the strongest powerlifter anyway, squatting 470 kilos in competition. Megu Kujira, or Jesus Oliveira, is...
I actually do not know what to say.
Oh my God, his fingers are so close to the edge of the thing there, the J-hooks. Incredible lifting, 470 kilos. No doubt about it.
I just can't think of anything I've seen that looks stronger as a single movement than this.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. That doesn't... Yeah.
I've never seen a clean, a deadlift, a bench press, a squat. I've never seen anything that I look at and feel the way I do when I see that.
I can't stop saying the finger thing. Imagine if he mushed his finger. You'd never get 470 off. Ooh, 470. Incredibly, without a doubt. I don't know why he got one red light to it, because
once again, I'm convinced one of those judges just has the buttons mixed up.
470. SPD must
buries
be
it.
Yeah. USA. Yeah.
Look, there's a lot to be said as well for doing over 1,000 pounds in the squat with just a pair of knee sleeves and a belt.
There is.
That is insane.
Yeah, there is. Is he wearing some kind of mouthpiece?
I think a gum shield.
Do you know why that is?
So you can bite really hard and not bite your teeth out.
So you don't get summer teeth.
What are they called?
Summer teeth? Some are there, some are not there.
Yeah. My bottom teeth here are fake.
We don't have time for your bottom teeth fake.
Bite them off.
Now, incredibly strong teenager here. 19 years old. Ilya Shurtsenev is 19. Ilya, of course,
Here.
with a name like Ilya.
Here.
390 for a double.
There's no way he can be 19 years old.
I'd say he could have done that for a set of 8. Do you think? And I love, do you know what? You know what there?
What?
The Russians and Eastern Europeans, they never load the plate wrong. They
No.
never do the dick on the plate.
That looks like that could be in an Alico magazine.
Yeah.
You know, like where it looks like it's loaded for a photo shoot.
Their gyms never have windows either.
No, because they're always in basements. I'm just going to say something now. There's absolutely no way he can be 19.
There, he's just corn-fed.
In Ireland, when people are playing sports, they'll have something called a social welfare birth cert. And parents will shout it from the sideline where they basically don't believe the date that's on their birth cert. And I'm shouting that for this one, Garth.
That's just rubbish.
He has to be 26 years old.
No, it's just 19. He's just a very, very, very strong 19-year-old who's very strong.
350 kilos for a double.
Incredible work.
Insanely good.
Next up, we have Laird Ross, who's an Australian horse, professional horse. I actually think you see work pants, and his job is to go be a horse. So he's doing 150.3 kilo stone for 10 front squats. 10
These
goblet
are like
squats.
Zercher squats.
No, they're goblet squats because his hands are
Goblet
around them.
squats.
10 stone squats.
Stone squats. I do not know what to say about this, but I think if things had gone differently in my life and I had met different people and not gotten into weightlifting, I wouldn't be doing 150 kilos for stone squats in my shed, but I'd definitely be wearing work pants lifting stones in my shed.
You'd love that because you wouldn't have to do any organised training. You could just...
And I wouldn't warm up or anything.
My favourite part is someone goes, "What are the chances this guy's natty?" And Laird responds, "Mate, haha, you know the answer." Well, why does that matter?
Yeah, why
Why-
are you even asking?
Like, you can't lift a 150 kilo stone for anything. You know, like, why are you asking there? What difference does it make?
Just as he's here bending over, this is my favorite part where you see the depth of his
He's double ass.
erectors,
His lower back ass.
the cavity that goes down so his skin can touch his spine.
Do you know what else is important as well to mention about this is that this isn't an Atlas stone. This is just a big stone he found
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
So when you talk about how much harder that is in some fashion,
I also feel like the people who brought that stone to him or sold him that stone needed a digger to take it out of the ground.
no one sold him that stone. I think he just stole it from
Well,
someone.
wherever it was stolen from, you would need mechanical help to take that out of the
I
ground.
reckon he stole that from some kind of Australian dragon monster, giant tarantula thing. He had to fight it to the death, and then he got the lifting stone.
Really.
I would assume so. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's what goes on in Australia. Maybe a giant alligator.
One thing I am concerned about is what the flooring in that shed is
Stones.
taking on a daily basis.
It's taking on stones.
I have a feeling like there's just like a new continental divide happening where that stone hits the ground.
For the combat sports athletes watching, especially the grapplers, you'll be interested to see that Satoshi Ishii, so the Beijing 2008 Olympic gold medalist in judo for Japan, I think the youngest ever gold medalist in judo for Japan, is training with some born killers.
Yeah.
Well, certainly some of the best jiu-jitsu athletes
I
going.
think what they might refer to themselves as the A team.
So we've got Nicholas Murakami and
Giampaolo. I think.
Paul. That's it. I didn't want to say it wrong. Particular of interest is Murakami, who won the Pan Ams recently at the weekend and won every fight by submission, which was what he said he'd do on the Flow Grappling All Access. Now, Satoshi is an MMA fighter currently. He fought his last fight in K1 recently, but he just prefers MMA. And his first time in the kimono, or gi, as non-Japanese people would call it. And he is probably my horse of the week. Again, this is the second time he won it.
Look, it's so difficult because there was many horses in the race this week.
Yes.
But he's the 112 kilo horse.
See, what happens is if you're an absolute unit, if you're in great nick, you look really good in the gi. You just look like a monster.
Look, the unfortunate thing as well is he is standing next to two massive men.
And he's
He's
massive.
181 centimeters tall. That's 6'2" or 6'3", I think. He is a big, tall, strong man. And he doesn't look that massive in that picture.
No, he looks
because
very
the other,
massive.
Because the other two lads are horses.
And
as well.
he's certainly much more muscle mass than them.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
realise
yeah.
Meregali was so tall. So on to the Conor McGregor debacle. So just quickly fill you in what's happened. Conor McGregor took some time out after he broke his shin bone to take a heap of performance enhancing, growth enhancing, anabolic replacing substances, which everyone knew he was doing.
Speculation.
Speculatively, potentially took a lot of time out to rehab his shin, took time out from USADA testing, then was coming back for his fight potentially this year, sometime in a couple of months. Conor claimed that he talked it out with USADA, claimed that everything had been kind of sorted out and that he'd come back to the testing pool and he'd just have to give them a certain amount of notice and then he'd pass a couple of tests and then he'd be ready to go. USADA said, no, you have to be back for 6 months, pass 2 tests. You have to let us know when you're coming back. Now they might have to delay the fight when he's supposed to be fighting the next person. Dana White came out and said he doesn't give a shit about any of that. He doesn't get involved in the drug testing situation. Obviously he does. But Conor then is up in the air. He's talking schmack. He's putting out tweets.
So I think for once Conor isn't in the wrong here.
Right.
To the best of my understanding, what's happened at the moment is Conor voluntarily pulled himself out of the testing pool as he wouldn't be competing, took his time off, then re-announced his return, re-announced it with 6 months of notice, and USADA have changed the goalposts and said it doesn't matter, you gave us 6 months of notice. And that's what they're fighting against at the moment.
Listen, you won't hear me supporting USADA in
So,
anything.
so I do think so. USADA have the ability to kind of change the goalpost. That's part of their remit, is that the testing is quite agile. So they never agree to this is the battery of tests your samples will go through, and in the same way where they're able to change the conditions of their return to play protocols. And I think that's what's happening here. I think Conor has kind of exploited a loophole too publicly in their eyes, and has it's kind of come back to bite them in the ass, and they're saying it's not as simple as you just giving us 6 months notice, that you can't just go away and openly use performance enhancing drugs and then expect to be left back into the fold. And I think that's where the main issue lies at the moment.
Listen, all my friends hate USADA. Fuck USADA.
Yeah.
No, but on a serious note, you know, I think he's clean.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you have stuff you'd like us to put in next week's news show, we really appreciate everybody tagging us. We really appreciate everybody sending us stuff on Instagram, sending us stuff via email. It's massively useful. A lot of stuff in this week's news show is only there because you guys sent it to us. So as always, we appreciate the support. Please let us know if you do think Conor McGregor is natty. Obviously he is, and we'll delete the comments that don't think he is. And we'll see you all again soon.
Today's news show is brought to you in honour of Conor McGregor's natty status by the Combat Sports program. You don't have to be not natty or natty to run the program. You can be either. It is 10 weeks in length, 6 weeks of strength, and then 4 weeks of a power phase in the gym. For a combat sports athletes, it's 4 sessions a week, but you can run it as 2 sessions per week over 20 weeks, as many recreational combat sports athletes